My name is Duff Smith. I studied population, genetic, and evolutionary biology at Purdue University. What education I do have in that field has influenced my choice of volunteer work in the community. Among those choices are the willful human act of catching feral cats and taking them to the local pound. And by the pound, I don't mean a cat rescue devoted to the maximum extension of their lives. Honestly, I would have liked nothing more than every cat in this video to have been adopted into a loving home. You know who would not have liked for that to happen? The guy doing the feeding. I caught a long-haired orange tabby from this location after this was filmed, and it turned out to be someone's missing pet. From several miles away on the other side of several more cat colonies like this one. How did it get here? Caretakers ain't running no lost and found. I would contend that what you're looking at is an agricultural operation. I consider this video footage of it to be historic in nature. These cat colony caretakers have absolutely defined what other animals may or may not exist over almost these entire islands. One cat came in my yard and wiped out all my green anoles in about 15 minutes. A neighbor told me about it. I wasn't home to stop it. We've lost birds. This colony used to be about 60 cats strong at one time, and when I went to rake the garbage off the ground, I discovered that a significant portion of the leaf litter was not leaves. It was songbird feathers. As to whether this guy was stuffing pillows to rest his head on at night, I couldn't tell you, but he could have. Future generations are going to have a right to know where their wildlife went. Like I said, historic video footage. This vacant, undeveloped land you're looking at was, at the time of this video, owned by a private land speculator who gave up on the regulatory environment and wound up selling it to the county in the name of land conservation. The activity you're witnessing continues to this day, as far as I know. Where exactly is this place? It's the island of Key Largo in the Florida Keys. It's a stone's throw from where the movie Key Largo with Humphrey Bogart was filmed. The Netflix series Bloodline is still filmed here, very close by. These night vision shots have resolution that's not too bad, but what it does not show you is that these cats are loaded with fleas. Their fur completely lacks the shine that your indoor pet cat would have. They have various degrees of mange mite infestation, and in one of them you see progressively thinning hair around the base of the tail. The upper and lower eyelids are so full of insect bites that the whelps rasp on the lenses of their eyeballs. The insects that inflict these bites are locally referred to as no-see-ums. The larvae get optimal nourishment from the animal's feces, and the burying of the feces the cats do only helps retain better moisture levels for that. The same insects are capable of spreading a horrible tropical disease called leishmaniasis, something we've been lucky about so far here. Wherever you live, there's a few things about the Keys you've probably heard about in the news recently. We have a screwworm outbreak that is well under control right now, but it would help if more people picked up after their animals better. Screwworms are another one that can breed in animal feces, and they were first discovered by a veterinarian in the ear of a colony cat on Big Pine Key, not in a deer. A lot of people don't know that. You also may have heard about the invasive Burmese pythons that made it to Key Largo. They may already be infesting the area you see in this video. It is a sad thing that iguanas and pythons, which I used to enjoy looking at in zoos and pet stores, have been turned loose, become invasive, and turned into garbage, basically. It's never the animal's fault. It's bad stewardship on the part of humans. But I don't think that pythons are going to find anything to eat down here because the animals are just too cute. The third thing you may have heard about is the Zika outbreak. Darn mosquitoes, how do you control them? You know, some pesticide, scary new genetic modifications to the mosquitoes. Mosquito fish you can go after standing water. I guess it's a given that mosquitoes are going to find blood to drink, and there's nothing you can do to limit that, right? Have you ever wondered about the plants and animals that live wild this far south in Florida? We've actually come a long way in restoring the native stuff since decades past. When you watch old movies of the Keys, you actually see a lot of corkwood and Australian pine trees that are not native at all. When the Labor Day hurricane came in 1935, it submerged these islands, and they were nearly stripped of their trees at that time, and it left nothing for the drowning people to hold on to. Much better now. We have gumbo, limbo, mahogany, poisonwood, cinnamon bark, pigeon plum, and thousands more spectacular native plants. When people use them in their landscapes, you wouldn't believe how classy it looks. It hasn't caught on with everyone. A lot of people who live here seem to want it to look like someplace else. As far as our native animals, well, that gets a little more complicated. This southernmost point in the continental United States, as exotic as it seems, has a native but rarefied plant and animal community known as tropical hardwood hammock. It is all American. It's what you could call a lifeboat climate zone. It is relatively tiny and located at a latitudinal extreme where creatures adapted to a warmer climate can hang on through the Little Ice Age and then move back closer to your backyard during medieval warming periods or something just like them. This is an important place that needs to be preserved from invasion from a lot of foreign species introductions. I think most people have an idea what I'm talking about. Significance of South Florida was something I understood from a very young age, and to live here and help look after the place is something of a dream come true for me. Kind of like another local resident who used to organize reef cleanups. Wonder what happened to that guy. Not all nuisance animals are foreign. The number of raccoons showing up to devour these food offerings is a devastating number of raccoons to have all in one place. 7 at one time was the maximum in the narrow field of view that this camera actually has. On the website of the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, or NYDEC, they say that every one of their raccoons is supposed to have at least 16 acres all to itself. There was another study in Indiana that stated that their woodlands contained something like 3 raccoons for every square mile before the arrival of European settlers. That's 213 acres for every coon. Raccoons, like all warm-blooded animals, actually have a very expensive calorie and protein requirement. Unnaturally high densities of such animals causes serious problems. Like cats, raccoons hunt and kill for the stimulation of it when they're not necessarily even hungry. I used to keep poultry, and a raccoon killed more than 20 of my birds at one time. So what chance does a small native animal have in these woods? When I trapped cats, I found that feeders do not necessarily notice that their cats were going missing right away. That's because the number of cats that show up at the dishes does vary from day to day. If you work vigorously, you can catch about half their cats over about 4 days before they realize that something is definitely going on. They never know where all their cats are. Their cats just stop showing up at the dishes one day when they die from whatever natural cause gets them. And they don't know where or how it dies. But when they don't see the numbers go the way they like, and they like to see the cat population go up, they get upset when they see them go down. They claim to have a tremendous emotional stake in the life of every cat and claim to attach great value to the life of every cat, but when you look at what they actually do, it seems more like a numbers game in which the cats are pawns. And here, 2 raccoons team up on 1 cat. This is interesting because while these raccoons are clearly functioning as a pack and showing this cooperative behavior, cats seem unable to reciprocate. When properly socialized among humans, cats cooperate with humans and even bring home some of their kills under the context of helping you stock your pantry. But during these feedings, they merely tolerate the presence of one another. If there's one thing even the cat haters gotta like about cats, is that cats don't like cats. Joking aside, although there's no physical contact between cats and coons throughout this footage, I did subsequently catch 2 severely mauled cats out of this location, their abdomens swollen with parasites as well. All animals eventually die, but the death of any outside cat will likely be agonizing, apart from a lucky car strike to the cranium or something. On the audio that goes with this video, you hear cats crying out in the distance, apparently in strife with raccoons or with each other. This in spite of the fact that some of the cats have already been removed, ostensibly relieving some of the population pressure. During a period of rain, it was interesting to see the feeder not feeding. The raccoons do a run-through just to make sure, and the pregnant cat showed up as one might expect. Setting traps in this kind of weather carries a probability of extra success if you can put a rain cover over the traps, but then the traps are harder to conceal, and a trapper's equipment must be properly concealed, as you will see. Since a couple of the outspoken colony caretakers in this town had professed their commitment to getting all the cats fixed so they wouldn't breed, I was starting to wonder by now when this pregnant one was going. Obviously it's not conducive if you wind up with more sick, hungry mouths to feed than you started with. I know for me to catch the cats is difficult because cats don't approach me. These cats don't. An outside trapper has to set the traps, conceal the traps, and leave the traps. Raccoons, possums, and cats that have already been fixed plug the traps. These are all critters I don't especially want to catch. So a caretaker that fails to do it is really just obstructing the process through the act of keeping the cats' bellies full all the time. On April 1st, the pregnant cat is farther along. The feeder curses at the barking dogs. That's a bit ironic because he's trespassing and the dogs are properly restrained wherever they are, or surely we would know. Even properly restrained dogs mean that his cats cannot safely trespass into the areas that form the dog's enclosed yard. They can't trespass into the dog's territory in perfect safety, so the dogs are a problem for him. So he takes issue. If you own even a fenced-in dog near a managed cat colony, quote unquote, be very careful. When you try to understand the position of the cat feeders, you'll find they frequently like to have it both ways. And by that, I mean, they shift the terms of the argument within a conversation. My online friends and I came up with a little list. You watch David Letterman, right? Number 1, cats are wildlife, so they should be allowed to live in the park, but they're not wildlife, and that's why we have to feed them. Number 2, capturing and humanely euthanizing cats is cruel and barbaric, but leaving them out to die of exposure, cars, coyotes, disease, injuries is humane. Number 3, fed cats don't hunt your wild creatures, but they're great rodent control. Number 4, cats naturally form colonies, but cats will keep other cats out of their territory. Number 5, if you remove cats, other cats will migrate in to take their place, a vacuum effect. But if you let cats attrition away naturally, somehow that's going to be any different. Number 6, the local animal control director is evil for having such a high euthanasia number last year, but all the credit for the reduced cat population belongs to trap, neuter, release initiatives. Number 7, cats are fine outside, but we have to build them shelters from styrofoam containers so they don't freeze to death. Obviously that one doesn't apply in Key Largo, but cat people are always surprising me. Number 8, feral cats don't like human contact and shy away from that and prefer to be away from humans. But we have to get close to feral cats, form colonies, throw kibble down, and attract them to us and dote on them. Number 9, this patch of woods was the site of a massacre the previous year when 30 cats disappeared in one night. It's true. Now excuse us while we lure 30 more cats into the exact same spot with addictive processed food. As to the regulatory environment in which all of this has taken place, the Florida Keys are comprised within the county of Monroe in Florida. TNR is illegal. All release of cats to the outdoors is defined as abandonment, even if the cat came from the outdoors. It doesn't stop the cat groups from publishing their misdemeanor offenses in the local paper. Don't ever let them tell you they need it to be legal to release their cats. They make up their own rules as they go, and nobody comes down on them, ever. All cats are to be vaccinated, licensed, and even leashed. Landowners may live catch trap any unwanted cats on the property, and when they're brought to the pound, there are protocols to ensure the trespassing doesn't continue. That's all under Section 4, Article 3 of our municipal codes. Monroe County. Florida Administrative Code, falling under the governor's agencies, forbids the leaving of food on the ground where nuisance animals, specifically possums or raccoons, might access it. That's 68A. The Keys also has some special federal designation as an important bird area, which may prevent TNR from ever being truly legal here. When you look at a map of the United States, it seems only right. Obviously, this is where a lot of birds try to stop and rest after crossing large tracts of water in their annual northward migration up the eastern seaboard. Living in an area like this carries certain responsibilities for its residents. You want to live in paradise? Live by its rules. Its rules are just fantastic anyway. I've been told that the agencies charged with protecting the environment, public health, and ensuring humane outcomes for animals are unable to bring before us a law to bear because someone decided we're a democracy instead of a democratic republic, and everything is a referendum now. Supposedly, authorities are convinced that public opinion is divided on 50-50 whether to have cats living and dying outdoors, and so that's it. What seems to be the reality is that within the 25% or so of people who want outdoor cats, there's far more passion for attending public meetings and writing to lawmakers. The trade organizations representing pet food manufacturers and retailers also seem to have large influence with its donations to cat rescues. You know, National Geographic changing its tune. Anyone notice that? Lastly, there seems to be an explosive growth of Eastern religious influence in the U.S. People are buying the statuettes for their house, dress their kids as Yoda frequently, go vegan, and display the characteristic attitudes idealizing animals. You know, there's a certain nation that has already gone much farther in the regulatory direction where all of this is pointing, and that country has 40 to 50,000 human rabies cases a year. Picture humans foaming at the mouth. 40 to 50,000. Should I name names as to which country that is? It's India. Who wants to import the whole shooting match? No. A native animal falling in the middle of the woods does make a sound, even when nobody is around to hear it. A lot of nature documentaries are published in the mainstream media. They're talking about species extinctions. The sharks are being finned, manta rays are being cut up, bluefin tuna are being caught on porpoise. At least people are eating that stuff. Who benefits from these people who are slaughtering animals with their kindness? How is it that when some people release a cat, and that cat kills a bird, they don't think it was them that killed the bird? Arguing with these people is like arguing with an insolent, emotionally stunted little kid. When you try to talk about overpopulated animals, they say things like, well, humans are overpopulated. Yeah, but we make up for that by using sewer systems and sleeping behind screens to keep diseased biting insects off of ourselves. Animals don't do those things, and when they don't, then cat people will say, but that's natural for them. But the effects of all the feces and insect bites are the same no matter whether it's humans or animals doing it. Animal overpopulation must be addressed decisively, effectively, and as quickly as possible. Humans who aren't up to the job of stewarding don't need to sit on the driver's seat. This being the information age, the ability to fact-check the following information against authoritative sources is at your fingertips. You may have heard that cat colonies spread diseases. What diseases? Rabies, of course. Colony caretakers will tell you there hasn't been any rabies in over a decade here in Monroe County, but guess what? Monroe County's policy is to test an animal for rabies only after it has bitten someone. A policy like that might be good for something, but not for surveillance of a disease. Cats need booster shots for rabies at least once every 3 years, depending on which rabies shot they're given. They are always given one when they're fixed by a veterinarian, if they are ever fixed. When I set traps on this and other colonies, less than half of the animals were fixed. Once they were caught in a trap, they may never decide to enter one again. I'm the king of catching the same cat more than once because I treat them very well. I must admit they don't like being trapped. One cat took 5 years for me to catch a second time. I admit many of them don't live that long anyway. Surely you've heard of the TV show Monsters Inside Me. It shows a lot of nasty, hard-to-diagnose diseases people have gotten. Ever wonder how many episodes of that show feature diseases you can catch from living near cat colonies? I went through and counted. 27 episodes. The diseases featured were toxoplasmosis, raccoon roundworm, babesiosis, the plague, leishmaniasis, toxocara, hookworm, giardia, cat scratch fever, E. coli, leptospirosis, and of course, rabies. Other zoonotic cat diseases spreadable to humans but not featured in the show Monsters Inside Me include ringworm skin fungus, cat tapeworm, and sparganosis. Among the many new diseases carried by ticks and mosquitoes, there are surely examples for which cats can play a significant role as carriers of reservoirs, but the research has been insufficient to identify which ones for sure. Toxocara, toxoplasmosis, and sparganosis are deposited by mammal feces into the soil and make it dangerous to conduct activities such as digging or gardening. They cause acute symptoms that resemble other common ailments. They can penetrate the human brain and eye tissue, causing permanent damage, behavior changes, vision problems, lethargy, and vertigo. Many mental illnesses are found to have a higher incidence among the 20% of Americans that have antibodies showing past exposure to toxoplasmosis. A causative relationship is not yet established, but probably reasonable to speculate. Among the mental illnesses possibly caused by toxoplasmosis is obsessive-compulsive cat doting behavior. It is speculated that being infected can turn you into this guy in the video, and that this is what accounts for the explosion of cat colonies across the country. It's an infectious syndrome that's spreading, and it can spread to you and your family. Together with the other two pathogens that form brain cysts, an untold number of medical conditions, past and present, may be directly or indirectly attributable to cats. Dr. Peter Hotez of the Baylor School of Medicine in Houston, Texas, is one notable physician working to span the epidemiological knowledge gap. He warns about the possible role of 1/3 of African American children being positive for cat roundworms, that's Toxocara, and their test scores in school. Cat feeders in Key Largo have the predominantly black neighborhood of Hibiscus Lane surrounded with their cats. Politicians, if you don't want to have to own it, then clean it up. Or at least uphold the rule of law enough for someone else to clean it up. But if you don't, so help me God, you're going to own it. Accurate research findings may run contrary to the interests of lobbying groups such as the pet food manufacturers, pet food retailers, pharmaceuticals, American Buddhist Society, etc. I'm sorry to have to tell everyone that adopting a rescue cat is a lost cause. There are responsible animal control directors that will be upset for me for saying this, but if everyone decided to take in rescue cats to no end, These people will still be out here breeding cats and making the problem larger. The hoarder houses full of kidnapped pets and intact breeding females will not go away until they are systematically raided by law enforcement. If they need help operating in the unsanitary environments, more personal protective equipment, more portable air conditioners to cool the hoarder houses down in order to wear the personal protective equipment, say something. Recruit help from the community. I'm ready to sign the waiver and take the oath. I'm a Christian, a conservationist. I love animals. I'm standing up to a lot of bad people by myself. I've been under attack and I'm a bit upset. Tougher animal control policies are the only thing that make bad people afraid to dump their animals and to not pick up after them. We need that from our leaders yesterday. Thank you for watching.